Psychology facts about human behavior. Psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and behavior. It is a relatively young science, having only been established as a distinct discipline in the late 19th century. However, psychology has already made a huge impact on our understanding of the human experience. The study of human behavior is a fascinating topic. It can provide insights into why people act the way they do and what motivates them. It can also help us understand why some people are more successful than others. Several different psychological theories try to explain human behavior. Some of these theories are more widely accepted than others. However, all of them can provide us with valuable insights into human behavior. In this video, we will explore some of the most interesting and controversial psychology facts about human behavior. We will also explore some of the different theories that try to explain why people behave the way they do. So watch till the end. Here are 10 interesting psychology facts about human behavior that you may not know. Number 1. We are all hardwired to behave in certain ways. There is a lot of debate surrounding the idea of human nature. Are we all born with certain tendencies that cannot be changed? Or can we learn and adapt to our environment? The answer is likely a bit of both. We are all hardwired to behave in certain ways, but our environment and experiences can also shape our behavior. Some scientists believe that we are all genetically predisposed to behave in certain ways. This means that our DNA determines how we will act and react to different situations. Other scientists believe that our environment is the biggest influence on our behavior. This means that the way we are raised and the experiences we have will shape who we are. Another theory is that we are all hardwired to behave in certain ways. This is because our brains are composed of billions of neurons that are interconnected and work together to produce our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Some of our behaviors are instinctive and occur without us even being aware of them. For example, we reflexively blink when something comes to our eyes. Other behaviors are learned and occur as a result of our experiences. For instance, we may learn to avoid certain foods if we get sick after eating them. Regardless of whether our behaviors are instinctive or learned, they all originate from the circuitry of our brains. This circuitry is determined by our genes, which are themselves determined by the laws of nature. As a result, we are all predisposed to behave in certain ways. There is still much to learn about human nature, but one thing is for sure: we are all unique and complex creatures. 2. Our emotions influence our decisions more than we realize. A large body of research has shown that our emotions play a significant role in our decision-making. But what does this mean for us as individuals? For one, it means that we often make decisions based on our feelings, rather than on logic or reason. This is why it's so important to be aware of our emotions and how they might be influencing our decisions. It also means that our emotions can have a strong impact on the decisions we make about other people. We may make judgments about others based on our feelings rather than on who they are. This research has important implications for both our personal lives and our interactions with others. By understanding how our emotions influence our decisions, we can make better choices in our lives and avoid making judgments about others that are not accurate. 3. We tend to fall into a herd mentality. Many of us have a natural tendency to follow the crowd. This is known as the herd mentality, and it can lead us to make some poor decisions. The herd mentality can be dangerous because it can cause us to blindly follow the actions of others without thinking for ourselves. This can lead to us making some poor choices, such as investing in a stock that is about to crash or following a fad that is not based on solid evidence. The best way to avoid making bad decisions due to the herd mentality is to think for yourself and to question the actions of others. If you see everyone else investing in a certain stock, take a step back and ask yourself if it is a good investment. Don't blindly follow the crowd. Think for yourself and make your own decisions. 4. We seek out social approval. Since childhood, we have been conditioned to seek out social approval. Whether it's from our parents, our teachers, or our peers, we are constantly looking for ways to be accepted by those around us. This need for approval can often lead us to make decisions that we wouldn't normally make. such as buying things we don't need or conforming to societal norms that we don't agree with. While there's nothing wrong with wanting to be liked by others, it's important to be aware of how this need for approval can impact our lives. When we're too focused on seeking social approval, we can lose sight of our own needs and values. We may also start to compare ourselves to others, which can lead to feelings of insecurity and low self-esteem. If you find that you're constantly seeking social approval, it may be helpful to take a step back and evaluate your motivations. 5. We are influenced by priming. We are constantly bombarded with information and it can be difficult to process it all. However, did you know that we are also constantly being bombarded with subtle cues that can influence our behavior? This is known as priming and it happens all the time, even though we may not be aware of it. For example, if you see a picture of a smiling face, you are more likely to smile at yourself. Or if you see a picture of a scared face, you are more likely to feel scared yourself. This is because our brain is constantly trying to make sense of the information it is receiving and it uses past experiences to do so. Priming occurs because we have mental associations between items in our memory. These associations can be based on previous experience, cultural influences, or simple similarities. When we are exposed to a stimulus, these associations are activated in our memory, which then affects our subsequent behavior. Priming is a psychological phenomenon whereby exposure to one stimulus influences the response to another stimulus. For example, if you read a list of words that are related to old age, wrinkles, arthritis, gray hair, etc., you may be more likely to walk more slowly afterward. Priming can also operate on a more subtle level, influencing our behavior in more subtle ways. 6. We have a confirmation bias. We all like to think that we are rational creatures who make decisions based on logic and reason, but the truth is, we are all biased in one way or another. And one of the most common biases we all have is called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs and to ignore information that contradicts those beliefs. Confirmation bias can lead us to ignore evidence that contradicts our beliefs and to focus too much on information that supports our views. This bias can have a negative impact on our ability to make decisions. It can also distort our view of reality and prevent us from seeing things as they truly are. However, by being aware of this bias, we can try to avoid its effects. So how can we overcome this bias? The first step is to be aware of it. Once we're aware of our confirmation bias, we can start to look for evidence that contradicts our beliefs. This can be a difficult process, but it's important to try to be as objective as possible in our decision making. 7. We are loss averse. We all know the feeling of loss, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, or the loss of possession. The loss is a universal experience, and it turns out we're even more averse to losing than we are to gaining. In psychology, this is known as the loss aversion principle. Studies have shown that we feel the pain of loss twice as much as we feel the pleasure of gain. This means that we are more likely to act to avoid a loss than we are to seek out a gain. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that we are more likely to make decisions that prevent us from losing something than we are to make decisions that help us gain something. This principle can help explain why we're so hesitant to take risks, because we are more focused on avoiding losses than we are on achieving gains. 8. We are influenced by the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias that affects our decision making. This bias leads us to believe that we have already invested too much in something to walk away from it, even if it is not in our best interest to continue. This fallacy can have a major impact on our lives. It can lead us to stay in relationships or jobs that are not good for us. It can cause us to make bad financial decisions, and it can even prevent us from taking chances and trying new things. The good news is that we can overcome this bias by being aware of it. Once we know that we are susceptible to the sunk cost fallacy, we can make better decisions by taking it into account. So the next time you find yourself justifying staying in a bad situation, remember that the sunk cost fallacy is probably affecting your thinking. Try to take a step back and look at the situation objectively. If it is truly in your best interest to say, then do so. But if not, don't let the sunk cost fallacy keep you from making a change. 9. We place more trust in things that are familiar to us. It is common knowledge that we place more trust in things that are familiar to us. This is known as the familiarity principle, and it plays a role in many aspects of our lives. For example, we are more likely to trust a close friend than a stranger. This principle also applies to brands and products. We are more likely to buy a product that we are familiar with than one that we've never heard of before. So why is this? Why do we trust things that are familiar to us? One reason is that we tend to view familiar things as being safer and more predictable than unfamiliar things. This can lead to a false sense of security, but it also means that we are more likely to take risks with things that we are familiar with. The familiarity principle is an important one to keep in mind, especially when making decisions. 10. We overestimate our abilities. One of the most common biases we have is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is when we overestimate our abilities and believe we are better than we are. The problem with this bias is that it can lead us to make poor decisions because we overestimate our ability to handle risks and challenges. This bias is especially common in young people, who often lack the experience to know just how much they don't know. As we get older and gain more experience, we generally become more accurate in our self-assessments. However, the Dunning-Kruger effect can still influence our decisions even in adulthood. The next time you're about to make a decision, take a step back and try to assess your abilities accurately. You may be surprised at how much more difficult the task is than you originally thought. Try to consider all the possible outcomes of your decision, and don't be afraid to ask for help from others if you are unsure of what to do. With a clear head and some careful planning, you'll be able to make the best decision for yourself and those involved. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks for watching!